the sole remaining independent state of Qi succumbs without a fight. By 221 BC, the ultimate prize is won. Qin is now China, his China. At the age of 34, Ying Jian is crowned with a veil of stars, symbolizing the divinity of China's first emperor.
Your Majesty.
He called himself Qin Shi Huangdi. Literally translated, this means he was the first august god of the Qin. He regarded himself not only as a deified figure, but as an initiator, a creator, someone who was beginning a long lineage. And so, with the help of his chief minister, Li Si, the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, put in place a system of governance that would long outlast him.
Li Si, who arrived as a young scholar the year the emperor came to the throne, has now become the new power behind it. For 20 years, he's perfected a system which will sweep away China's feudalist past once and for all. But not everyone is ready for the revolution.
Li Si, the only force in 1,000 years that has been able to create peace is the divine power of the emperor. There must be no loyalty but to the emperor, and his divine power must be executed in the most efficient way possible through officers who have no other interests except to fulfill his divine order. Without this, the chaos and warfare will return, which, of course, we do not want.
Excellent. He is right. The Minister for Justice is right.
Li Si's totalitarian philosophy is called legalism. And there is evidence that shows how total the power of that new regime became. Roel Sturks has been deciphering a series of legal documents from the tomb of a minor official in the distant reaches of the new empire. The text sets down rules that governed every part of every citizen's daily life, and the penalties for transgression.
If you look at the punishing system in the Qin legal system, then physical punishments that include mutilation, tattooing, for example, tattooing the body, tattooing the face, cutting off parts of the limbs, these were traditionally among the most severest punishments. For example, there's one provision here that says if you have two people, text is, fornicate, then they ought to be sent off to the market, which is a polite way of saying that they will be beheaded on the market square. So even private life here is part of sort of the tentacles of Qin law, now to be universally applied to everybody who was a subject, of this new world order called the Qin Empire.
In 220 BC, Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi sets off to survey his new empire. For the first time ever, a secure and peaceful land. And he intends to keep it that way. Millions of deconscripted soldiers are now freed from fighting, ready to be reused. The empire is won, but it must be secured with a great wall. For centuries, the northern edges of civilized China have been ravaged by nomadic tribes. And though the frontier towns have had defensive walls, there were always plenty of gaps. Now, that will change. With the major wars over, labor is plentiful, and building begins on the greatest engineering project of the ancient world. A single impregnable barrier to seal the empire. The Great Wall of China. Made of compacted earth, it is 30 feet high and 3,000 miles long. At its peak of production, the records say, over 1 million people are enslaved to build the Great Wall. Perhaps a quarter will die in the process. The emperor's demands on labor keep on growing. With the empire secure, he turns his eyes to the fulfillment of his next great vision, sending thousands more workers to build a tomb, befitting the first divine ruler of all of China. Today, all that can be seen is a vast earthen mound, as big as the great Egyptian pyramid at Giza. The first clue to its possible contents was the terracotta army. But that was nearly a mile from the tomb mound. When archaeologists dug into the space in between, an incredible world opened up. To date, they have found over 180 separate pits, containing so much more than soldiers. Hundreds of terracotta dancers, musicians, and acrobats were built to the same exacting standards as the emperor's precious army. And the imperial craftsmen, freed from making weapons, created perfect birds to stand in the artificial lakes of buried gardens. And perhaps the most exquisite bronze artifact ever found, a half-scale model of the imperial chariot to convey the emperor in his underground world.
The burial mound, it turns out, is in fact at the center of an enormous necropolis, an above-ground and underground city for the first emperor. It would provide him, it would continue to provide him with all of the trappings of power, with all of the protection that someone of his status required.
But there was no way to see the ultimate symbol of power, the tomb itself. Yet again, it was the ancient official history that provided the only clue. But this time, the account seemed too incredible to take at face value.
令将作记录时有所权尽者，既设之。The emperor sent more than 700,000 convicts to dig down through 3 rivers and fill it with bronze.
On the floor of the vault, there was created a map of his entire empire, all of China.
He had artisans stick jewels into the ceiling to represent the sky, the cosmos above.
The streams, the ocean, the text said, were filled with quicksilver, with liquid mercury.
He had some kind of machine which circulated that mercury to imitate the actual flowing of the waters.
That it would be a kind of water clock, a machine, and that as long as it kept running, the emperor would continue to exist in his enclosed world.
A bronze tomb filled with liquid mercury. The idea seems beyond fantasy. The weight of the mercury alone would be more than 500 tons. Even though China has mercury ore in abundance, how could one man command such resources? And could it be proved? The tomb of the first emperor of China has been sealed for over 2,000 years. But there is a way in. Using a new combination of techniques, including ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistance measurements, and core samples, the research team under Duan Qingbo have been able to build up a three-dimensional model of the entire complex. Beginning with the outer walls of the necropolis. And revealing for the first time the mausoleum structure hidden beneath the mound. An early surprise was that the mausoleum appears as a vast divided pyramid, with passages leading to the tomb from the east and west. And when they took the all-important readings from the ground underneath the pyramid, they discovered the tomb itself, seen here as a clearly defined area marked in blue. An underground space hermetically sealed for over 2,000 years. It measures as big as a football field. And though at first the pyramid appeared to be a solid closed structure covering over the tomb, the outer surface of the tomb's roof is in fact open to the sky. Or it would be, if it hadn't been covered by 1 million tons of earth 2,000 years ago. Duan and his team have been probing that earth for almost a decade, tracing the shape of the pyramid beneath their feet with a series of 4,000 core samples. And each one, Jeffrey Riegel realized, could potentially hold an incredible piece of evidence direct from the tomb itself. Because if there was mercury there, over the centuries, mercury vapor could seep through the roof and into the surrounding soil, where Riegel hopes they may be able to detect it.
Samples of this sort enable us to see the supporting structure, the rammed earth structure that's supporting the entire mound. But of course, what really interests us is what is the burial like. So if the legend about the emperor having placed in the base of his tomb a map of all of China, of all of his empire with rivers of flowing mercury, if that legend is true, then we can expect that a test of this soil will tell us whether or not it's true, will either provide us with corroboration or won't.
The Chinese archaeologists have no immediate plans to excavate the tomb. They have no way yet to preserve its contents and no desire to disturb the emperor's spirit. So for the foreseeable future, the mercury test may be their only way to understand what's inside. Each of the 4,000 soil samples from the tomb mound has to be individually analyzed for mercury content. That process has been ongoing and is almost complete. By 215 BC, the tomb itself is well on the way to completion. But the man it is intended to house suddenly has a change of heart.
No. No.
The idea of an eternal afterlife, however grand, is no longer enough.
I will live on. I will live on.
215 BC, the first emperor of China is once again on the road. He no longer trusts the security of his own court and has started taking practical steps to extend his life. His doctors prescribe repeat doses of something long believed to increase longevity: sex with multiple partners. But his new court physician, Zhu Fu, has suggested something more chemical: the mystical substance mercury.
Have you got it?
Yes, Majesty.
Will it work?
Majesty, all the world's alchemists agree that mercury is highly indicative of increased longevity.
How increased?
Sire, as with sex, given the right application, it can help. A lot. How much longer one can expect to live is not guaranteed.
And what is? Where does it come from, Zhu Fu? Immortality. Where can it be found? Why do I, the first divine sovereign emperor of the whole of China, not have it? And if I do not have it, who does?
Sire, there is a legend of a place where the immortals live. A series of islands called Panglai, where we believe the immortals reside forever. There are two types of elixir, one to restrain the flight of the Hangzhou upon death.
Find them.
Majesty?
You will go there, find them, and bring them back to me. And then you will personally administer them to me.
Majesty.
This is an imperial mission, and my missions do not fail.
No, Majesty.
Do you believe me?
Yes, Majesty.
Go.
Zhu Fu is given a small army of his own with which to conquer death. The emperor takes his first course of mercury pills. If Zhu Fu is right, it might help hold back the years until the elixirs can be found. He starts to withdraw further into his own world. giving greater power to those close to the throne.
这边准备好了吗？你们那个，这批，这个。
By 213 BC, Li Su, now promoted to prime minister, has been left free to expand his totalitarian state beyond the mundane rules of life. He decides it is now necessary to control thought. Free thought is to be suppressed, starting with an act of terrible destruction. Entire libraries of bamboo scrolls are burned. Only a single copy of each agricultural and medical text is kept, secure in the Imperial Archive. Everything else is destroyed. There are worse shocks to come. Those who try to hide their works are rounded up in their thousands, branded on the face, and sentenced to a life of forced labor, mostly on the Great Wall. And those who resist further are buried alive. And all the time, the Emperor's contact with reality is being loosened still further, aided by his mercury consumption. The dose has been increased over the last 5 years, as his desire for immortality has become more obsessive. And the elixirs of the Islands of the Immortals have failed to materialize. But far from prolonging his life, the mercury's actually having the opposite effect.
Take it away.
Liquid mercury was known to Chinese alchemists as the only substance that could dissolve the eternal incorruptible metal, gold.
To the ancient mind, it must have seemed like a supernatural substance. There was nothing like it. I mean, the natural inclination is to think it has some power, that maybe if you took it into your body, then it would pass this magical property onto you and even perhaps help you prolong your life.
But not in its liquid form. Pure mercury cannot be absorbed by the human body. So the Chinese alchemists made soluble compounds they knew were easily digestible. And this, it is believed, is what the Emperor took for years.
The more he took it, in whatever form he was taking it, the more dangerous it was going to become. As more and more mercury is absorbed into the body, then it begins to attack the nervous system. So slowly you'll get a slight tremor, and that will get worse and worse. But the damage that's really being done to your body is in the brain. Begin with, you become talkative. Later on, you become slightly aggressive. People became very confrontational. They were obsessed with being watched. But eventually, of course, it becomes total paranoia.
Well, how do they know where I am? Well?
Anyone revealing the Emperor's whereabouts is under instant sentence of death.
Find out who's responsible and have them killed.
Seven years after Qin Shi Huangdi began his quest for immortality, the mercury is starting to poison his body as well as his mind. Among other things, his kidneys are beginning to fail. He knows his time is running out, and there is only one place left to turn to save himself.
Here I am! Oh, heaven! Your divine sons! You see? The world is united at last. I erase doubt, establish law. I punish disorder and bring calm to the four corners of the earth. And now, all under the sun and the stars are of one mind. Mine. All guided by one single will. Mine. And one day, I shall be God. I shall be God. I shall be God.
"35 years after he came to the throne, Qin Shi Huangdi embarks on yet another imperial tour. But this one is different. Where once there was a prosperous and powerful nation, today the nation rots. The land is starved of labor for the emperor's great projects. Famine looms. And there's nothing anyone can do. The emperor's obsession with immortality is uppermost in his mind.
You don't suppose that I'm just gonna die?
Of course not. We are searching for the elixirs of Peng La.
Su Fu failed, didn't you know that? Never came back. I sent the spies to find them, and do you know what they said to me? They couldn't find the island because their way was blocked by a race of giant fish.
Majesty, we will move heaven and earth.
That's all right. Li Su, I had a dream about a sea god in human form. Me. I am the sea god. I've ordered the armorers to build me a giant crossbow so I can hunt the fish. How big do you suppose they are?
In the sea.
Yes, that's where they live. Forward, soldiers.
The historical records say the emperor reached the island of Gifu on the coast of China in the 10th month of 210 BC. Where he hunted giant fish with a crossbow.
That's right.
The great realist is now immune to reality.
All right, let me down here.
The divine ruler, warrior king of the Qin, has gone.
Give me the crossbow.
In his place, a madman whose every whim must be accommodated.
I'm here! Coming for you! Ah! I am the first sovereign emperor of the whole of China! Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi! And now, I command you to let my people pass! 你现在搞我！
While the emperor plays in a world of his own, his advisors plan what to do with his empire. Once his poisoned body has gone the way of his poisoned mind.
Wow! Yo! Two!
They know it won't be long. With Li Su is the emperor's second son, Hu Hai. Hu Hai is not the emperor's first choice to succeed him. But the emperor will not live forever. And Li Su has plans to change the succession. Returning from the coast, Qin Shi Huangdi becomes ill and hurries back to his capital. But the imperial convoy is stopped in its tracks. In the 7th month of 210 BC, the journey is over. The search for immortality has ended.
Majesty. Majesty.
The great empire has lost its maker. At the age of 50, Qin Shi Huangdi is dead. The state is rudderless. And this is exactly the moment Li Su and his supporters have been waiting for. They now have the power to change the imperial succession. And it will bring the empire to its knees. Following his death in 210 BC, the body of the first emperor is taken back to the giant mausoleum that was built in his lifetime. And after Qin Shi Huangdi, the most powerful man on Earth, has been laid to rest, the last few precious objects are ready to place beside him in the depths of his vast tomb. But while the formal rites proceed according to the emperor's wishes, outside in the imperial city, a power struggle is underway. From a recently opened pit close to the emperor's tomb comes startling new evidence to suggest that the imperial family was tearing itself apart.
Professor Yuan thinks that the death of this individual is very much linked with the struggle for succession after the death of the first emperor. What is remarkable is that there's an arrowhead embedded in the base of the skull, here, behind the ear. It looks as if this is a person who was shot at close range. That means, of course, that this was no accident. This was an assassination. By tradition, the successor should have been the first emperor's oldest son. But several members at the court conspired to have a more junior member of the family succeed to the throne. After the junior member became the second emperor, he then saw to it that those who had opposed him, his brothers, his sisters, more distant relatives who were all members of the Qin imperial house, all of them were then killed.
The Emperor is ready for his final journey. And he will not go alone. While his chosen successors are being assassinated, hundreds of his favorite concubines prepare to make their final act of devotion. They will stay with their master to start a new imperial family in the next world. But while the terracotta soldiers stand guard over their emperor, outside, real soldiers are fighting real battles. Rebellion stirs. And there is evidence that graphically shows how far that rebellion spread. Right into the compound surrounding the emperor's tomb. The stone armor reserved for the emperor's dead soldiers shows clear scorch marks from an intense fire that swept through the burial pits. The terracotta army itself was in pieces when it was discovered, smashed by rioters. The one area the rebels will never reach is inside the tomb. This is the Emperor's final resting place, and he must never be disturbed. It has long been decided that not only will he take his concubines and his terracotta army, but the designers, the architects, the engineers, and builders of the tomb, all those who know the way in and out, will be forced to stay. Hundreds are sealed inside the tomb, and all